What's good, everybody? Cerebral24. So the new format is going to be upon us in a few days. A lot of cards are going to rotate out with the rotation, and a big problem that we're going to have is for the supporters, items too, but supporters mostly, I'd say, is decks are going to be very inconsistent. We lose a lot of significant supporters, mainly Sycamore, N, Skyla, and Brigette. Now, these are were very potent supporters, seen playing almost any deck, especially N and Sycamore. Every deck basically ran a number of those. And not only were they powerful, they provided very good draw. So even if you just replace them with another supporter, no card does quite what they did. So it's going to be hard to replace them. And I looked at the sets that are going to come out after Celestial Storm, the stuff that we're going to get in November, let's say, with the Thunderclap Spark and the Fairy Rise. I'm going to have to review those sets too as well. And it's going to be a while before we get some shit. We don't really have any good supporting cards in those sets as well. So unless Nintendo does something like reprint supporters again, I don't think they're going to do that, or just give us some sort of supporter that I'm unaware of that's going to come out, and that's going to come out in Japan in a different way. We're going to be stuck with these cards here and a bunch of other stuff. Now, I don't think they're going to reprint Sycamore again, another sort of discard your hand, draw 7, because at this point it gets stale. I think they're going to give us a chance to go a format without it. Same goes with N. I don't think they're going to reprint N again. And for Scylla, we do have a replacement I'm going to talk about soon. So when it comes to the cards that we're losing, Brigette. Brigette was our main supporter that most people used, depending on the deck. I didn't use it as much, but most people that ran Stage 1 GX decks, run heavy lines of Tapulele GX, at least 2, they really favored Brigette to get that early setup, get a bunch of basic Pokemon, consistency, get your guys, be able to evolve them. And then the dead cards, the Brigette, when it comes dead, you can always discard it with Zoroark, Jax, what have you. We're losing that card. Now, the only options basically for that card for replacement is the good old Pokemon Fan Club. This card has been released in Ultra Prism. I believe there should be, I think it got released in Burning Shadows again too. I could be wrong. But yeah, this is one of the Pokemon Fan Club versions. It's basically search your deck for up to 2 basic Pokemon and put them into your hand. So you get 1 less basic Pokemon than Brigette, which is significant, but you can get the shit to your hand. You don't necessarily have to play them on the bench. So this opens yourself up to some different combos, more flexibility. It has always been a good card. It's just that when you have cards like Collector and Brigette in the format in other situations, it seems inferior, even though it's not. But this is going to be our best option if you just want a consistent get basic Pokemon in hand, put them on the bench sort of thing, in the form of a supporter, if you don't want to go the Nest Balls route and stuff like that. Now the other option, which is kind of interesting as well, that I think should be pretty good, is the Apricot Maker. This is a new card from Celestial Storm. In my opinion, this card is very good. I hear a lot of people don't think it's good, but I think it's quite good. It's just, you just have to build your decks differently. This card, you search your deck for up to 2 item cards that have the word ball in their name, put them into your hand. So what this basically does is it means you can grab 2 Nest Balls, let's say, and that basically becomes like another Brigette -1 card. Now the flexibility of this card though is that you can get any ball, so it can be Ultra Ball. Everybody runs Ultra Ball almost, and that can net you more cards, different cards than just basic Pokemon. Timer Ball. We have the new Friend Ball, Lure Ball, so many different balls. Pokeball not so good, Great Ball not so good, but there's all sorts of different balls. The main ones are probably going to be Ultra Ball, Nest Ball, and Timer Ball, of course. And this is one of your other ways to, I guess, get some consistency. People, I think, are going to have to run maybe more Nest Balls now that there's no Brigette. And if you're going to do that, you might as well run Apricot Maker. Fetch you those Nest Balls, grab your basic Pokemon like that. And what this also does is that it thins your deck more. because you grab a card, you grab Nest Ball. Nest Ball is going to grab your Pokemon. So it's essentially like you have less cards in your deck. You thin your deck quicker, and that's something that's pretty cool in my opinion. These are all the only really good options. If you want to get GX Pokemon, you can try Olivia, but honestly, if we're just going to go with just regular consistency, just the more generic stuff, these are your only options for supporters. Really nothing else I can think of from everything that I just checked out from the cards we have. And we're not really going to get anything from the new sets in November. So it's going to be a while before we have shit to work with. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe format is going to be slower. Maybe some shit is going to change. Now, for the replacement of N, N is your guy that draws a lot of cards, but it also gives you that disruption effect. And for the disruption effect, the only card that's basically kind of good, consistent, is Judge. I have the old Unleashed art here. I'm pretty sure that's the Unleashed logo. Yeah, anyway. But of course, this card has been reprinted a bunch of times. It's going to get reprinted again in future sets as well, from what I understand. So it's going to be around for a while. Both players shuffle their hand into their deck and draw 4 cards. You can try and do the first trial dude from the one that has the normal Pokemon trial dude, Lima. Yeah, that's what he's called. But you have the potential of giving your opponent a lot of cards, let him draw 6 cards, and that's definitely the opposite of Disruption of N. Really, your only option is Judge. If you want to do some disruption, it's really is your best bet, and you always get 4 cards. It's not so great unless you're doing a specific strategy, like back in the day when people used Judge for in the Sableye deck and stuff like that. But it's the only card we have to work with, really. Now, for Shuffle and Draw, I do want to mention, I have to mention actually, from the stuff we have available, Cynthia, you definitely have to max it out for sure. This card, if people didn't play 4 before, you have to play 4 now. It really is the best generic supporter that we have left now that we lose Sycamore and N. She's the best. Always draw 6. Quite good. Another card that should be really good to maybe replace N and help out Cynthia when it comes to shuffle and draw, maybe even be as good as Sycamore depending on the situation, is Copycat. I really think that they really want us to play with this card, just run this card again like in the past. I don't think they're going to reprint Sycamore again for a while. This card is basically shuffle your hand into your deck, draw a card for each card in your opponent's hand. So if your opponent has a very big hand, this card becomes quite good. If they just have 6, then it becomes an additional Cynthia. Okay, that's good in our situation right now. If they have 7 or more, then it becomes a very good card, essentially letting you draw a lot of cards. Now, if you run a deck that uses the GX attack very early, like maybe Rayquaza GX, should be pretty hot coming in the new format, or maybe Tramphead GX is going to see play again, or just any deck where you use the GX attack early, Hala should be good. It's always going to shuffle and draw and give you 7 cards once you use your GX attack, and that's pretty good. It basically becomes like a better Cynthia, and you can't ask for much better come the new format. So there's another option for shuffle and draw. Now the other guys, it really isn't anything good. We have Titan Liza. This is probably going to be a staple. It's probably the most reliable sort of, I guess, N, another sort of shuffle and draw supporter that's consistent like Cynthia. It basically gives you 1 less card than Cynthia, shuffle your hand into your deck and draw 5. But the good news is that I guess for the 1 less card, it gives you a little bit of flexibility. This can also become a switch if you want to switch your active Pokemon when you're a bench Pokemon. Now, when I read this card on Cerebi, I don't know if maybe it's an error on their part, but I thought that both players did that. But no, it's just you. So this means that Steven actually might be able to do some shit. Now, Steven is only good basically if you're playing the Metagross deck, and that in that deck then it's always a good card, always giving you 3 of any cards. But in any other deck, this card is only good in the beginning. Like if you run heavy, let's say Tabulele GX line, and maybe you run 1 or 2 of these, just to see this early on turn 1 maybe when you don't really attack or when you're setting up. You can get 3 cards and put them into your hand. The only really disruption card that can ruin your plan when you use Steven's Resolve like that is Judge, and I don't know if people are going to play that. So maybe Steven can be quite good in that regard. And also you can grab any 3 cards with this supporter. So it's not just basically get basic Pokemon and get a bunch of Pokemon. It helps you with the stage 2 GX a lot. You can get a rare candy, get the evolution as well, and get the basic Pokemon. So, it's not bad. Your turn instantly ends, but this is why you gotta play it early. Maybe decks like Malamar where they don't really attack on the first turn and their aim is to set up. If you like running a lot of Tapuleles in that deck and you like to set up that way, maybe Steven's Resolve can be good. I'm not really sure. I need to test the card myself out. A lot of people think it's shit. It's probably not completely shit, but it's probably not too broken the way when I reviewed it when the set was going to come out, Celestial Storm. I wasn't really thinking that, okay, what about the time if you run a bunch of these later on when it's going to be dead in your deck. So it's not completely useless, but it's not as good as maybe I thought. It's going to be definitely something to think about though come the new format when we don't have a lot of options. This could be like another sort of Apricot Maker / fan club kind of card. Okay, now for Scylla, Scylla does have a pretty solid replacement, I guess, with Volkner. He's always going to give you an item. You can't get a supporter with this guy, so that sucks a little bit. Mostly Scylla would get items, but on that off chance you want to get a supporter, you can't really do it. I don't think a lot of people have been playing Scylla recently anyway. I mean, I still do. But in Lightning decks, you also get the benefit of adding a Lightning Energy card to your hand, and that's quite good. So those decks are definitely going to appreciate Volkner. And there's a few kind of type-specific cards that maybe they can help you out for fire decks and for fairy decks and stuff like that. But this guy is just, even if you don't run a Lightning deck, he's basically like a sort of weaker Scylla. So if you really want to, he's not bad. All right. Now, for other cards that normally wouldn't be so good, but maybe now with the rotation, they can become a little better. With the format slowing down, and since we don't have any sort of Misty or, that sort of card that can net you 1 card from anything, Gladion becomes a little better. Is essentially, it can get you 1 card from the prizes, so it's a supporter that is a 1-for-1. So that's not very good. But with the format maybe slowing down and with a lack of supporters, maybe this guy can find a one-off spot in a deck. I don't like it very much, but I can see why people will play it. It's basically like Misty. The only difference is you don't discard and you can choose a card from your prizes instead of the deck. So that's basically it. I actually think Misty is better, to be honest, giving you more options. But I guess if you want to get something from the prizes, it is what it is. So another maybe card that you should think about. Now, if you discard a lot of cards, and I think people are going to aim to do that so they can take advantage of Lily. Lily is the way to go. This has been a fantastic card already, at least for me, and in many ways superior than Brigette for your first turn supporter. Draw cards until you have 8 if you use this on the first turn. Decks like Malamar, decks that run Ultra Ball, Mystery Treasure, that aim to discard a lot of cards and do combo plays like that. Lily should definitely be in your deck, and maybe now with a lack of supporters, you might run, instead of 1, maybe 2 or more. Very good card. It's basically your draw until you have 6 supporter, so pretty solid. It gives you some solid draw when you don't have a big hand. I feel like Lily, Cynthia, maybe 1 of Copycat, they're definitely going to be staples. The rest of the stuff can really matter. It's player preference for your supporter that it's going to fetch you basics if you like Apricot Maker. If you want to use Pokemon Fan Club. If you use Apricot Maker, you basically use like an engine. I kind of like the Holland engine, reminds me of that shit. Because you use the Apricot Maker and then you use a bunch of balls. It makes your Ultra Balls better as well, more consistent. So it really is, people are just going to have to build their decks differently. Build their decks around this card, Apricot Maker, perhaps. Alright, and for the last cards, I guess that I need to talk about is, I guess, Looker. I didn't include How here. They basically do the same shit, just draw 3 cards. There's a bunch of supporters that do that. I think these are only going to be only ones available, How and Looker. Now, Looker gets the cards from the bottom of your deck, but it's still draw 3 cards, I guess. So unless there's some situations where you really want to draw from the top, uh, they both net you 3 cards. The difference is that Looker can have Looker's Whistle. So this is also kind of like a little mini draw engine. You can use the Looker Whistle and add Lookers into your hand. Maybe if the format slows down, this can be enough to make it viable. But always drawing 3 cards, it's not very good, man. Maybe I guess if you run a heavy acrobike engine, a heavy trainer item engine, draw engine like that, then drawing 3 cards is okay. Who the fuck knows? But if you want solid supporter draw, solid shuffle and draw, he's not that reliable. Maybe Copycat is even better, and maybe even running more of these, Tate and Alisa is probably better. Now, one of the things with Looker is that I guess if you don't want to go with this guy, I didn't include things like Mars and Kukui because they're basically straight draw too, but it's weak. They just more of a tech cards to give you a specific effect. You don't really want to rely on them. We're talking about draw engines here. Supporters that you're gonna want to run multiples as the replacements for Sycamore and cards like that. And the Looker engine, I guess, is something. But the best ones are probably Copycat. Cynthia definitely maxed out. Lily's going to be MVP in my opinion. Maybe Judge if you want to disrupt. Hala, of course, if you use your GX stack early. And I think the Apricot Maker engine is going to be the way to go. Fan Club is just, it might be too slow. It depends on how you build your deck. But I really dig Apricot Maker. At least I think people need to try and make this card work with nest balls and shit. Volkner is a replacement for Scylla, like I've said. It's going to be solid. It should be solid enough. And Tit and Liza, I think this card should see play too. It's definitely going to see play actually with the rotation. There isn't really many good supporters. And this drawing straight 5, shuffle and draw 5, along with having giving you the switch option as well. It has some decent flexibility. So these are the supporter guys. We're really gonna have to get creative and run a bunch of shit to replace all those ends and all those sycamores. Now, naturally, decks like Zorak GX have a big advantage. Yeah, I mean, that deck was going to remain strong anyway for as long as it's going to be around. But that deck has a big advantage because with things slowing down, it means that it's going to appear even faster for your opponent, for your people not playing Zorak GX when they're going up against Zorak GX. Zorak GX is going to have even more speed against them. It's going to appear that way because that guy can draw with his own ability, and that's just too good. So that's basically it, guys. Also, before I close this, I do want to mention that originally I was going to upload a video talking about Zekrom, the tag team Zekrom Pikachu GX. They announced that shit on the World Championship. It was one of the earlier announcements. I did record the sound, but then I realized after recording the video, it was just a great recording. I really felt great about it. I realized, what the hell, I mean, I opened my headset, but it wasn't, it seemed it didn't record, it didn't open. I don't know what happened. My headset seems to be working fine now, but it basically went to hell, and I can't really recreate it. I'm not the type of person that I can recreate my thoughts. I don't really want to talk about it again, trying to just remember what I was trying to say, and it doesn't come out good. But just so you guys know that I did want to talk about it, since I did make that what's going to come after GX video, I felt inclined to talk about it. Normally I don't do just one card videos because it's kind of like a one card review at this point. I like to review sets, but because it was a new concept card as well for the new concept, Attack Team GX, get 3 prizes, I wanted to talk about it, but the video got fucked, and I just wanted to mention that. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys subscribe, leave a like, share this with your friends. Sabro24, what's up?